This is Pierre-Yves Delacote, working at Planet Technologies. I wanted to talk about how I see the role of manager in this digital era. And I'm going to discuss a few things that I've seen over the years um, that might be weak point for managers today. So let me clarify all those topics, and I will call it what a manager should do. Um, and I will start with the first topic, which I think most managers think they do, is to take ownership. But in reality, we can see that in a lot of projects, um, manager might take responsibility but might not take ownership. And taking ownership is really to be involved, accept the risks and the failures, and endorse the failures because I think that's how you learn. And for the team, it's not because one member of your team failed that you, as a manager, you shouldn't be responsible, take ownership for this failure because it's part of the role of the manager to help their peers, their direct reports, to succeed. So taking ownership is really definitely important. Taking responsibility is to, and it's really, I think what's lacking the most today is to recognize mistakes, errors, failures, because if you don't do that in the present, if you ignore where you failed in the past, it's hard to build the future, and be really respected and so on. So it's to take the risk. Basically, managers should be able to take risks and take ownership on this risk. The second one is you, as a manager, you should make decisions based on the common interests. Um, so it's really key to identify what is the common interest when you're working within a company, an organization. The common interest in general is aligned with the general purpose of the company. As I like to say, if you're coaching a soccer team, um, if you just say to the offense your goal is to goal, and if you tell the coach the defense team, and if you say the goal is to block goals, you can end a match losing 5-4, and the offense will say, we score 4 goals, so we're on par with the goal. And you can lose a match with 1-0, and the defense will say, we'll just took 1 goal, so we align with the goals to not having concede too many goals. So as you can see, if we were coaching a soccer team like that, we don't see the global purpose is to win the match. So that's important to make decisions based on the common interest. And the common interest is a global purpose in general. Also, it's really important, and I think that's what lacking to start with the team interest, not the enterprise interest, but at least the team interest. Start with that rather than personal interest. A lot of managers, unfortunately, are managing their career more than they're managing their team, and it's not beneficial for anybody, neither for the manager. You'll see that in the long run, managers who are just working for them for their personal goals, you need to work for your personal goals, but you should start with the team goals because that's how everybody grows, including the manager. The fourth thing is to trust by default, and then you can lead. Trusting by default is to avoid what I see often, micromanagement, because managers have a tendency to try to control everything because they have goals, and so they want to control, measure all the time, rather than leading. Because I'm convinced that if you lead in the right direction, and leading does not just mean being in front of everybody and show the path. It's also to be able to adjust, help people to understand the goal, and try to fit the goals. But if you don't trust people, so give them the empowerment, the necessary empowerment to achieve the goal, it's going to be hard. So establishing the trust, if you don't have the trust at the beginning when you join a team, you need first to establish the trust, and trust by default, to be confident that your team can succeed. And it doesn't mean that you trust blindly. It means that you trust because you set some guidance and some rules. Trust is based on rules, and also experience will bring trust. But trust by default means you let people take initiatives as long as you define the rules and the goals at the beginning. It probably will work better. If you don't do that, you might face burnout, bore out, especially with COVID. Especially when you're distant, it's hard to manage a team without trust, because then you're constantly on the back of the people, and people are all day in a meeting and they cannot handle this pressure. So really it's beneficial for everybody to trust by default. It's not, once again, it's not trust in the dark blindly. You need to establish some guidance. The fifth point is to be involved. I've seen a lot of managers not being involved in their teamwork. So it's often that it's not clear why they're not involved. I mean, by involved, not to supervise the work, is to help to do the work. It's to help people grow. It's to help understand what they're doing, and even sometimes modeling, sometimes knowing what they're doing, having the skills of what they're doing. More and more, that's what I'm seeing. More and more customers are willing to have managers who have skills, and not just to organize things. Because especially the youngest generation come to a job to learn something, to grow, and they want to grow from their managers. They want some expertise from their manager to help them grow. So they want, the manager needs to be legitimate. He needs to understand what the business is running is about. So being involved is really key, and it means as a manager, you need expertise. Still need expertise. On the other hand, if you're just a super expert that has been promoted as a manager, it's not a good thing neither, because then you might be very expert, but you might maybe role model how to learn things, how to grow on some aspect, but you're not able to manage people. So it's you need to have a dual capability of being able to work with people and manage them, their growth, and also teach them something. The sixth point is to give and explain purpose. The purpose, or the why, as Simon Sinek calls it, is really key. If you don't understand why you're working for a company, what is the purpose of the company, what is the purpose of your team, then you're probably going to be lost or not engaged or disengaged. and you will only come for the paycheck. So if you manage a team without explaining the goal and the purpose, what Simon Sinek called a just cause, you have less engagement in your team. So you won't develop the team, you won't develop the manager. So it's also your benefit as a manager. The seventh topic, what a manager should do. I think it's really key to foster collaboration, discussion, sharing. It's really key because it's impossible to learn or to grow or to be an expert by yourself. The expertise field is so wide that there's so many things to learn that you cannot do that by yourself. And also having a diverse point of view helps you to be open to new ideas and find new solutions. And you don't want to repeat the same mistake because you have the same mindset. So fostering the diversity in your team and bringing different point of views, letting all the people in the team express their ideas. Another, I think, good behavior for a manager when having a team meeting is to let everybody speak first, and the manager should wrap up at the end, or maybe give his opinion at the end, but not talk first. So talk last, and foster the good practice of sharing, discussing, and even sometimes confronting with respect. As long as the critique is positive and is made to find a solution, it's okay with that. I know that in the US, it's a different culture for France for sure, and I think there's a right balance between not to be too critics, but if you're neutral all the time, if you don't know really what people think and what you don't know what they can bring on the table. So yeah, foster collaboration, encourage. So to me, it's really key for a manager to encourage his teams and all the members of the team, even if some of the members have small contribution. When you boost the people and you encourage them, they're willing to give more in general. So it's really key to praise people, to acknowledge their work, to give visibility on their work, and it also, when you encourage people, you encourage them in general to take initiatives, to be more creative. It opens really to a new way of working more intelligently, more rapidly. It's really beneficial at all levels. On the opposite, not encouraging the team is really bad, because that's where disengagement is created, because people, they work hard and they don't see any feedback, not even feedback and not encouragement. So why will they try to make a difference if they don't have some sort of reward or recognition at least? The ninth topic is a really important one, and I think it's even the manager should apply that to his work. Is to help the team members to manage their priorities. When I work with customers, the first thing people are lacking is time, always. And you cannot do anything about time. You can eventually work 24 hours per day, but it might not be a good solution on the health side of your team, well-being of your team. So it's more important to help people to understand where are the priorities and help them find the priorities rather than find more time. And because to me, when you don't have time, it's more because you don't know where your priorities. And we have a tendency in modern era to have new priorities all the time, and it's hard to know. Okay, yesterday I have 12 priorities, now I have 20, and they're all at the same level because a lot of managers don't explain what really are the priorities. And priorities not just here are 20 priorities. It's among those priorities what is more priority than the others. So it's key to explain what are the priority and to understand the priority and help manage the priority. And manager is there to understand, help make the difference between one priority to the other, or to get better organized sometimes, how to leverage other members of the team, or to leverage a more open collaborative environment to go faster and find more expertise rather than focusing on a few people. So the manager's role is really important there, to connect with the right people and help. Another topic is to empower. So it's really key to give everything you can to all the member of your team, so they feel you're on their back and you help them realize things, and you, even if you push the limit in terms of, and even if you're very demanding, they need to feel enabled by you. They need to feel that they can achieve the goal, even if it's a dream goal, because you're supportive. And being supportive is not just at the beginning of what you're asking, but all the time. Asking them if they need help, how you can help, connecting them with the right people, with the right resources, trying to displace hurdles, and everything you can do to help empower people will be beneficial for every individual, and also will be a benefit for the team and for the manager. Once again, everything I'm talking about is beneficial for the manager. So it's to me it's important when you empower also to give some sort of framework where people can play and orient people while you empower them. Once again, you need to be very vigilant as a manager, not to just give a task and wait 6 months, and at the end of 6 months you look at what the result is. That's empowerment, but that's risky. A manager should have a follow-up to be sure it's not deviating, it's going in the right direction, it's going where you want to go, it's aligned with the purpose. So coming back, it goes back to ownership and to be involved. It's a manager is not somebody who's giving goal at the beginning of the year and evaluate the goal at the end of the year. A review should never be a surprise at the end of the year, because it should be an ongoing process, and then at the end of the year everybody knows where we're at, so the review is smoother and more interesting for both stakeholders. Another really important topic that, unfortunately, not all the time, fortunately, but sometimes is not really in place, It's to defend your team. I've seen some examples where a member of a team made a mistake, and I saw the manager didn't take ownership of that and didn't defend the person who made the mistake. And it's normal to make mistakes, and it's a way you learn. And I will eventually say it's the only way to learn, because we're not in knowing it all era anymore. It's a constant learning. So how do you learn constantly? It's by experimenting, and you cannot learn just in a book. It's by practicing. You don't learn push-ups by reading a book. You need to practice. So you need to defend your team that they're making mistakes. It's normal, and as long as the teammate is not making mistake after mistake, repeating the same mistakes, then it can be a problem. But as a team manager, to me it sounds it doesn't make sense not to defend a member of your team, even if he made a big mistake. Another point is to balance, and it's pretty hard, balance analysis and empathy. So I'm not trying to oppose the two things here, but I think a manager needs to be able to measure things, analyze what's going on in his team, analyze the goals, analyze the task, analyze the business. That's a good part of his understand the business. That's a good part of his role, and also is some sort of captain, and he needs to be able to transmit his analysis to the team with empathy. So he needs to understand how other members of his team, especially in diverse team, are reasoning, and with respect, and he needs to balance the fact that he has some numbers. He analyzes the situation. There might be a problem, and on the side he has people to work with to figure out what is the solution. So he needs to bring the right level of empathy and right level of analysis, but it doesn't. It shouldn't be only looking at the numbers, or only being friendly, for example, with his team members, because it's not being friendly or a friend within your team that will help grow the team. You need to be able to be critical, to critique what's not going well, because you can measure it, and you can be critical when things are deviating, but you need to transmit that and align the team and work better with the team with empathy. Another topic is pretty important too, is to give and inspire respect. So there's no really recipe for that. Give respect is pretty easy to understand. I think it's really respecting people with their differences, with their different opinions, with their different maturity, with their diversity, whatever it is, and to respect people. The best way is to treat them equal, including you as a manager. They're just another human you're working with, so you need to respect this human. And to inspire respect, it's might be more complicated. But to go back to another point, to inspire respect, you need to commit to your ownership. You need to endorse mistakes from your team. You need to show the way. You need to incarnate. You need to lead by example. You need to put your hands in the weeds. You really need to inspire, and also sometimes, if you can, you need to be creative, so people want to work with you because they like your creativity where it leads them, and you need to make people grow. So respect is very key. And another topic is to be sincere. Being sincere, to me, is really important, because if you're using awesome, fantastic in every meeting for everybody who's sharing an idea, for example, that doesn't sound sincere, because it's always the same for everybody, for every subject. So just be genuine. You don't have to be disappointed when somebody doesn't bring the value that you were expecting. But you could rather than saying that you're disappointed, you could try to express what you were expecting, and try to understand how the person who didn't reach the expectation can reach it. But be genuine, be sincere, be transparent. Explain the dynamics of people, explain the dynamics within the organization. Sometimes you make choices because sometimes they're not the best for the team, but the best for the company, for the organization. So you need to be transparent and sincere about it. Sometimes we're doing something that is not prime to the organization, and we would like to have more engagement from the organization, and we don't. You can be transparent about that. You can say, okay, for right now it's not the number one initiative in the organization, but at least it's our job, and it's number one for us, and in the long run it will connect to the global purpose. As long it will not only connect, because it has to connect to the global purpose, but it will pay off. So be sincere, be transparent. I think where I see the management role deviating a lot, as I say, I might be a little bit sarcastic here, or maybe a little bit overcritic here, but I see less and less managers really building something, achieving something. I see more and more managers managing indicators. Quite frankly, I've been one of them. In the past, I've been asked to manage what they call watermelon indicators. The green outside, red inside. It's a disaster. And because you're trying to please your management doing that, and you're losing the purpose. But when you build something, you're more focused on doing things rather than how you communicate about them, how you how you interact even. When you building gives focus. When you're building I don't know, a building, when you're building a tower, and everybody's focused. Maybe at the beginning when you're in design, there's a lot of discussion, but when you're starting to build, the alignment is key. So it brings everybody back into alignment because you're building, and building brings alignment. Unless you're building a bridge from two different teams from two different sides of the river, and you reach not at the same level. But in general, building brings alignment, and managers should really have an output. It's not just to measure; it's to be part of the building journey, and it will align everybody to succeed. When you're acting, when you're building, you want to succeed, and you're more involved, because when you build, you're really into the action. So it's I think it's really key, and I see too many managers being in meetings and not building anything, asking the teams to build, but they're not involved. So definitely look at this topic, try to be into the action and be part of the team that build. Also, there's a topic that I talk a lot. I even have a dedicated video on this. It's to incarnate versus incantate. So incarnate to me is lead by example. I said that earlier, but I really think it's key. Lead by example. Show the way. Show that you're involved. Whatever you're doing. It's, for example, I'm dealing with a lot of digital transformation projects. So obviously, if a manager is not using the technology that has been deployed and not showing the way how to use the technology, and on the other side, said you have to use the technology. That's incantate. So you say something but you don't do it. That's a disaster too. So really, it's being genuine and also showing that you're part of the game. You're a manager, but you're playing the game as the other one. Incarnate over incanted. And maybe one new topic that to me is really important, because now we are in a fast-paced environment where things are evolving very quickly. The business velocity has never been so important. The uncertainty of the business is quite big too. The way people change their mind, customers, partners, the way they change strategy, it's erratic, and it's quick. So the only way to adapt to this very transformative world is to learn. If you try to use the same solution that leads to your problem, you know where it ends. So you need to learn, and you need to learn so many things. I think digital skills are really key, and every manager should be skilled around digital. It should be a leader around digital. It should show the way. Not understanding that digital is key today to do business, It's not the only skill for sure, but it's core. And learning is trying, experimenting, failing. It's also being open to other, learning from other experience. Learning is listening. Learning is to be open-minded and to be able to adapt to this fast pace of business problems, issues, COVID, name it, remote work. You need to learn fast. You need to be willing to learn, to think about it. You need to observe and then learn and then act, adjust, and constantly. Because it's not like before where you learn when you're young at school, at college, and then you work and you learn from time to time. Here it's constant learning, especially with the new technology, the cloud. It's the paradigm are shifting, switching very fast. So learn is really a key thing to do when you're a manager. And finally, I think that's probably the most important for your team is to make them grow. And I mean for every member. It might not be the same path for everybody, but everybody is expecting the manager to help them grow. So if you go back to the last topic, if you don't learn, it's hard to make them learn something or grow. And growing is not to make them be a manager. Everybody doesn't want to be a manager, and sometimes when they want, it's not for the good reasons. Maybe for the title, or for the money, or for the power. That's why really I think we need to communicate differently about the role of manager. Manager is just another person who's more in the middle, connecting people, making people grow. And really growing is the number one thing that the young generation want when they come into a new job. And you know that if you don't make people grow, they will leave. And if they don't want to leave for whatever reason, stability, security, the paycheck, if you don't make them grow, your business doesn't grow. So make them grow. As a team, it's even better because it's even more momentum. But helping the people to grow will also help the manager to grow, because when you help other people, when you help them achieve a goal, when you help them learn something, it creates an incredible will of do more and do better. And it's a virtual cycle, it's a good cycle that the more you help people grow, the more they want to grow, and the more they will help others to grow, and the business will grow, and the company will grow, or the team will grow. So it's beneficial for everybody, not only the team members but also the managers. When it's again all those topics that what I think a manager should do are not only to make the team members better. I think it's really important, but also it helps the manager. It's beneficial for the manager. So sometimes you need to rethink the way you manage people. It might not be always for good reasons. It might, challenge you a little bit to change those behaviors, but I think it's a good path not only to be a good manager, and to make your team grow, but also it's a way definitely to become a leader. And in our society, leaders cannot do anything without their teams, but we cannot do much without a leader. And having managers just I'm always doing the same comparison between an entrepreneur and a businessman. The businessman manages the risks, control the risk, adjust the organization regarding the risks. But a businessman doesn't see where the business can go. It's just managing the business. That's to me has the same patterns than the management as we saw it. And the way I see the new management, more like a leader, is like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur takes risks, takes chances. He takes the opportunity. He has to federate his team. He has to be visionary. He has to lead the path. He has also to help his team and protect his team, and but also at the same time be able to adjust his strategy along the way. So I think my definition of the manager is to, through all those topics, is to become a leader. I think leaders are the people who will change the world. So that was my feedback on manager, the way I see them today. Cheers.